Welcome to Monk's Moon Temple. As you settle into this moment, let the external world soften its edges. The sounds, the worries, the endless list of things to be done, let them all recede for now. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to achieve in these next moments, except to be here, fully present with your own breath, with the gentle rhythm of your own being. For the next while, we will embark on a journey together, not across lands, but across the inner landscapes of peace, wisdom, and understanding. This journey is guided by timeless principles that have been a refuge for the human heart for over 2 millennia, principles found at the heart of Buddhist wisdom. These are not rules to follow, but truths to discover within yourself, like finding a clear, still spring beneath the soil of your everyday life. So, allow your eyes to gently close if you wish, or simply soften your gaze. Feel the support beneath you, the gentle rise and fall of your chest. And in this space of simple being, we begin. Imagine your mind, in this very moment, as a vast, open plain at dusk. The light is soft, the horizon seems endless. This plain is your natural state, open, peaceful, capacious. Now, onto this plain, you begin to bring structures. You build a small house of worry about tomorrow. You construct a tall tower of a memory from yesterday that still carries a sting. You fence off an area with posts of plans and expectations. Soon, the once open plain is cluttered with buildings of thought, monuments to past and future. You navigate through this cramped, self-made town, and you feel confined, anxious, lost. You've forgotten the feeling of the open sky, the wind across the unobstructed grass. The Buddha's teachings gently guide us to see that we are not the architects of this cramped town. We are the plain itself. The buildings are temporary constructions, thoughts and attachments we have mistaken for permanent reality. Our practice, our journey, is the patient, compassionate work of recognizing the plain once more. This recognition begins with a radical, yet simple, act, the act of presence. It is stepping out of the doorway of your worry house and simply feeling the air on your face. It is the conscious decision to inhabit the here and now. So often, we are temporal refugees, living in the ghost towns of yesterday or the blueprint cities of tomorrow. Buddhism brings us home to the present, the only place where life is actually happening. It is in this present moment awareness that we can begin to see our attachments. Not as enemies, but as the buildings we have constructed for reasons that once made sense. A story is told, in the quiet of our temple, of a master painter and his most devoted student. The student wished to paint the perfect lotus flower. For years, he studied petals, light on water, the curve of stems. He filled canvases, but each one he declared a failure, burning them in frustration. He traveled far to see the most famous lotuses, yet his brush always felt heavy, his colors dull. One spring morning, the master found the student staring despondently at a blank canvas. The master said nothing. He simply picked up a single brush, dipped it in the deepest crimson, and painted a single, imperfect, falling petal floating on an empty ground. There, he said. The lotus is perfect because it exists. Your suffering is not in your skill, but in your refusal to paint the lotus that is here, now, in its fleeting beauty, for the one that exists only in your mind as an ideal. You are building a museum for a flower that only grows in the moving water of this moment. The student understood. His attachment was not to the lotus, but to his idea of the lotus. He was trying to build a permanent palace for something inherently transient. When he finally painted the decaying, beautiful flower before him, with its blemishes and wilting edges, he created his masterpiece. It was a painting not of a lotus, but of life itself. This is the profound shift. Detachment, in the deepest sense taught by the Buddha, is not a cold removal. It is the warmth of loving something fully without needing to nail it to the wall of permanence. It is enjoying the scent of the flower without uprooting it to possess it. It is listening to the melody without demanding the musician play it forever. My own teacher illustrated this with a simple morning ritual. Every dawn, he would pour a cup of tea from an old, plain clay pot. He would hold the warm cup in both hands, savoring the aroma, the heat, the taste with utter contentment. One morning, the cup slipped from my clumsy hands as I was learning to serve. It shattered on the stone floor. I was horrified, frozen in apology. He looked at the fragments, then at my stricken face, and smiled. "Thank you," he said. "That was a wonderful cup of tea. Now, let us clean this up, so no one is hurt by the pieces." There was no loss in his eyes, only gratitude for what had been and a practical care for the present moment. The tea was not less precious because the cup was gone, its experience was complete. He was attached to the experience of mindfulness, not to the object. The object had served its purpose. This is freedom, to hold things lightly enough that when they change form, as all things must, our peace is not shattered with them. Why is this so difficult for us? Because we live under a spell of permanence. We believe deep down that if we are good enough, careful enough, clever enough, we can make the good things last and keep the bad things away. We want the joyful melody to be a permanent soundtrack, and the note of sorrow to be forever silenced. The Buddha's foundational teaching of anicca, impermanence, is not a doctrine of pessimism. It is the key to liberation. It is the understanding that the river is not broken because it flows. Flowing is its nature. To demand the river be a frozen sculpture for our admiration is to miss its vital, living beauty entirely. Our suffering arises when we camp on the riverbank and weep that the water we touched a moment ago has moved on, instead of appreciating the new water flowing over our hands now, or the glint of the sun on the constantly renewed surface. Let us explore this with a story that has been shared for generations in the oral traditions that flow into Buddhism. It is the tale of the mapmaker and the living land. In a kingdom obsessed with order, the royal mapmaker was the most esteemed scholar. He had mapped every road, every mountain, every river of the kingdom onto a magnificent, fixed scroll. The king and his ministers would consult this scroll for all decisions. The mapmaker took great pride in its perfection. One year, after great rains, a river changed its course, carving a new path through a valley. The people of the valley adapted, using the new river for irrigation. But when the king heard of this, he was furious. He summoned the mapmaker. "The river is in the wrong place. According to your map, it should be here," he shouted, pointing to the old, dry riverbed on the scroll. The mapmaker, terrified of losing his standing, did not dare to change his perfect map. Instead, he convinced the king to send 1,000 workers to force the river back to its old course. To dig, to dam, to fight against the water's will. The project drained the treasury and exhausted the people. The river, season after season, would break their dams and return to its new course. The kingdom grew poor and bitter, fighting a relentless, losing battle against reality. A wandering monk, seeing this folly, approached the young apprentice to the mapmaker. He gave the apprentice a blank parchment and a piece of charcoal. "The land is alive," the monk whispered. The map must be a humble servant to the land, not a master over it. Can you draw a map that accepts change? That night, the apprentice began a new kind of map. He drew the mountains, but in light, sketchy lines. He drew the river, not as a fixed blue line, but as a shaded area with the note, the water flows here, for now. He made notes in the margins, forests grow and recede. Paths are made by feet, not decrees. It was a living document. When he showed it to the monk nodded. You have mapped not the territory, but your relationship to it, one of observation and humility. The apprentice presented this to the king. At first, the king was confused, then angry at its lack of certainty. But the old mapmaker, now weary from the futile struggle, saw the wisdom. Your Majesty, he said, we have been commanding the land to obey our paper. We have been clinging to an idea. This new map does not tell the land what to be, it respectfully asks it what it is, today. It allows us to adapt, to flow, to build our mills where the water actually is, not where we wish it were. Reluctantly, the king agreed to try. They moved the mills, adjusted the farms, and the kingdom found prosperity again, not by controlling the river, but by adapting to its flow. Our minds are the old mapmaker. We have fixed maps of how our life should be, how people should act, how we should feel. When reality changes, as it constantly does, we suffer, trying to force the living river of our experience back into the dry channel of our expectations. The practice of mindfulness is becoming the apprentice, drawing our experience with light, humble strokes, always ready to redraw based on what is, not what we insist should be. This act of releasing our fixed maps is the essence of acceptance. Acceptance is not approval. It is not saying a painful event is good. It is the courageous, clear-eyed acknowledgement. This is what is happening. It is standing before the changed river and saying, the water flows here now. Only from that truth can effective, peaceful action arise. You can build a new irrigation channel. You cannot wish the river back to its old bed without exhausting your soul. I learned this not from a scripture, but from a stubborn goat at the monastery. We had a little goat named Kisa. She had a clear, favorite path from her pen to a particular patch of clover. One day, a large branch fell from a tree, blocking her well-worn path. I watched as she spent the entire morning trying to squeeze under the branch, push through it, bleat at it in frustration. She wore herself out, missing the clover altogether. Finally, she stopped, stood still, and looked around. She noticed that just 3 steps to the left, there was a clear, open route around the end of the branch. She took it and was contentedly munching clover moments later. Her initial suffering wasn't from the branch, it was from her rigid attachment to the old path. Her peace came from accepting the obstacle and adapting her course. How often are we like Kisa, wasting our energy fighting the branch that has fallen across our path, instead of simply taking in the new landscape and adjusting our steps? Acceptance is that moment of pause, of looking around. It is the end of the argument with reality. If you're beginning to feel a sense of spaciousness, a gentle loosening of old, tight knots within, then you are already feeling the touch of this wisdom. This path is one of gentle remembering, of coming home to your own vast plain. If you wish to continue this exploration, to have these gentle reminders and deep dives into peace as a part of your life, consider joining our community here at Monk's Moon Temple. By subscribing, you plant a seed of mindful presence that we can nurture together. Each new conversation is an invitation to return to your true home. We would be honored to have you with us. If it feels right, simply click subscribe. And now, let's continue our journey deeper. We have begun to explore the open plane of our natural mind and the structures we build upon it. We've spoken of presence as stepping out of those structures, of detachment as loving without imprisoning, and of acceptance as the clear-eyed seeing of what is. Now, let us turn our attention to the force that builds most of those mental structures, the force that convinces us we are the cramped town and not the plane. It is the mind's relentless urge to control. We believe, deep in our unconscious, that if we think enough, plan enough, worry enough, we can dictate the unfolding of our lives. We treat life like a complex machine we must learn to operate, and suffering is what we feel when the controls don't respond. Buddhism offers a radical, relieving perspective. You are not the operator of a machine. You are a participant in a living, breathing, unpredictable ecosystem. The desire for control is like a sailor trying to command the wind. You can learn to understand it, to set your sails with skill, but you cannot issue it a decree. The peace we seek is found not in becoming the perfect commander of the wind, but in becoming a masterful sailor who can navigate any wind. There is a poignant story from the forests of ancient India that speaks to this. It is the story of the archer and the silk. A young archer of peerless skill sought out a renowned hermit said to possess the secret of unwavering focus. The archer could split an arrow already in the target, hit a moving leaf in a gale. Yet, in tournaments, when the eyes of the kingdom were upon him, his hand would sometimes tremble. A doubt would creep in. He wanted the secret to total control. He found the hermit living in a simple hut. Before the archer could even state his request, the hermit handed him a bow, an arrow, and a target, a small circle painted on a distant tree. "Hit the center," the hermit said. It was an easy shot. The archer drew, released, and the arrow struck just outside the bullseye. He was annoyed at himself. "Again," said the hermit. The second arrow landed even further out. Frustration began to heat the archer's face. "Your skill is great," the hermit observed, "but your need is greater. Your need for the arrow to obey you perfectly is what pushes it away." The hermit then took from his robe a piece of sheer, white silk. He tied it to a branch between the archer and the target. A soft breeze made the silk flutter. "Now," said the hermit, "hit the target." The archer protested. "The silk is in the way. If my arrow touches it, it will deflect." "Indeed," said the hermit calmly. "Do not hit the silk." The archer drew his bow, but now his mind was divided. He had to aim not only at the target but also account for the fluttering silk. His first shot missed wildly. For days, the hermit had him practice this way. The archer grew more and more agitated, his shots becoming worse. He was trying to control the arrow's path through a moving obstacle, an impossible task. Finally, in utter exhaustion, he lowered his bow. "I cannot do it," he confessed, his voice full of defeat. The hermit nodded. "Good. Now you are ready to learn." He pointed at the silk. "You have been trying to shoot at the target, while controlling for the silk. You must release the need to control the path. See only the target. Let your skill, which is deep within you, calculate the path. The silk is the breeze, it is your thought of failure, it is the eyes of the crowd. It is everything you cannot control. If you focus on the obstacle, you become the obstacle. Look only at the center. Let the arrow go, and trust it to find its way. The archer, emptied of his striving, took a deep breath. He looked only at the small circle on the tree. He saw the silk only in his peripheral vision, a fluttering nothing. He drew and released. The arrow flew, brushed ever so slightly against the billowing silk, and thudded into the dead center of the target. He had not controlled the arrow's entire journey. He had focused his intention and then released control, trusting his trained ability and accepting the influence of the breeze. True mastery was not perfect control, but profound trust. This is the essence of letting go. It is not abandoning effort. It is focusing your effort on your intention, your aim, your values, your present moment action, and then releasing your grip on the intricate details of the outcome, which are always touched by 1,000 breezes you cannot command. This letting go is what allows for the flowering of trust, not a blind, passive trust that everything will be okay, in a superficial sense, but a deep, abiding trust in your own capacity to meet whatever is okay or not okay. It is trust in the process of life itself, in its intelligence that often operates on a scale larger than our immediate understanding. We see this in the natural world with perfect clarity. A tree does not clutch its leaves in autumn, begging them not to fall. It releases them, trusting in the cycle of seasons, in the necessity of dormancy for the burst of spring. It does not know the details of the winter to come, but it trusts its nature to endure it. Our anxiety is a form of clutching dead leaves, fearing the bare branches, imagining the winter will never end. To cultivate this trust, we must become students of a larger story. We judge events in the narrow frame of the immediate, labeling them good fortune or bad luck. An ancient parable, which we shall call the farmer of the valley, illustrates the folly of this. A farmer lived in a fertile valley. One day, his only horse, a strong and vital animal, broke through the fence and ran away into the wild mountains. His neighbors came to console him. "What terrible misfortune," they cried. The farmer simply said, "Misfortune? Fortune? Who can say?" A week later, the horse returned, leading a herd of 12 wild horses of magnificent breed into the farmer's paddock. The neighbors rushed over, celebrating. "What incredible luck," they exclaimed. The farmer, mending a harness, replied, "Luck? Not luck. Who can say?" The next day, the farmer's only son, while trying to tame one of the wild horses, was thrown and broke his leg quite badly. The neighbors gathered again, lamenting. "This is a true tragedy. Now your son cannot help you with the harvest." The farmer, preparing a poultice for the boy's leg, said, "Tragedy? Blessing? It is too soon to say." A month later, the king's army marched through the valley, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a brutal, faraway war. The recruiting officers came to the farmer's house, saw his son with his leg in a splint, and passed him by. The neighbors, whose sons were taken away, wept at the farmer's door. "You are so fortunate your son was injured," they said. The farmer, looking at his son safe by the hearth, said quietly, "Fortunate? Unfortunate? The story is not over. This story is not about mystical fate. It is about the interconnected, flowing nature of events. Our labels are snapshots of a single frame in a moving picture. Trust is the willingness to not judge the movie by a single, isolated frame. It is the patience to allow the narrative to unfold, knowing that our limited perspective in this moment cannot encompass the whole. What feels like a brick wall may be a redirecting path. What feels like a devastating end may be the fertile ground for a beginning we cannot yet imagine. This patience is nourished by a heart that has learned to be a gentle companion to itself. This brings us to the transformative power of compassion, which in the Buddhist path, always begins at home. You cannot offer a drink from an empty cup. So often, we meet our own stumbles, our fears, our failures, with an inner voice of harshness, of condemnation. We speak to ourselves in a tone we would never use with a struggling friend. This inner critic believes it is motivating us, but it is only wounding the one who must do the work. Imagine you are teaching a child to walk. The child falls. Do you shout, "You fool! You're doing it wrong. Everyone else can walk, why can't you?" No. You offer a hand, a kind word, a smile of encouragement. It's okay. Try again. I'm here. Your own inner being is that child, learning, growing, stumbling in the face of life's complexities. Self-compassion is that inner hand, that kind word. It is the recognition, this is difficult. I am hurting. It is natural to struggle. This is not self-pity or making excuses. It is the foundation of resilience. A tree that is whipped by a storm does not berate itself for bending, it uses its flexibility to survive, and its roots grow deeper from the stress. Compassion is the soil that allows those roots to hold. The formal practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation, is the training of this heart. It begins with directing simple, sincere phrases towards yourself. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. For many, this is the most challenging part. We feel unworthy, or we fear it will make us soft. But consider, a warrior does not go into battle with a bruised and battered body if he can help it. He tends to his wounds, he strengthens his muscles. Self-compassion is tending to the warrior of your spirit. It is the essential maintenance of your own humanity. From this place of inner care, compassion for others flows not as a draining obligation, but as a natural overflow. When you understand your own struggles with fear, attachment, and hurt, you begin to see that same struggle in the eyes of everyone you meet. The person who is sharp with you is in pain. The one who seems selfish is clinging to something out of fear. This doesn't mean you allow harmful behavior, but it allows you to respond from a place of understanding rather than react from a place of personal wounding. You can set a boundary with the firmness of a surgeon setting a bone, not with the anger of a street fighter. A story from the lore of the monks tells of the heavy basket. A woman once came to a monastery, her face etched with bitterness. She carried a large, heavy basket on her back. She asked the abbot, "Can you teach me how to stop being so angry? My anger is a fire that burns me from the inside." The abbot asked, "What is in the basket?" She said, "It is everything people have done to me. Every unfair word, every betrayal, every hurt. I carry them so I never forget, so I am never fooled again." The abbot nodded. "It is a heavy load. You must be very strong." "It is exhausting," she admitted. The abbot asked, "Would you like to put it down, even for a moment?" She looked wary. "If I put it down, I might forget. They might hurt me again." "Perhaps," said the abbot. "But look at your hands, how calloused they are from the ropes. Look at your back, how bent it is. The people who hurt you are not carrying this basket. You are. Your anger is not hurting them, it is weighing you down. He led her to a still pond. Lay your basket by the water and look in, he suggested. Reluctantly, she did. In the reflection, she saw a face hardened by strain and resentment. Is this the face you wish to carry through the world? The abbot asked softly. The basket protects a heart, but it has also built a prison around it. He then invited her to take just one stone, one specific grievance, from the basket. Look at it. Feel its weight. Now, ask yourself, has carrying this stone all these years changed the past? Has it made you safer, or happier? She held the cold stone. It had not. You have a choice, the abbot said. You can place it back in the basket, or you can gently lay it here, by the pond, and leave it. Not because what happened was okay, but because your arms are tired. Tears welled in her eyes. One by one, over the afternoon, she took stones from the basket and left them by the water. Some she put back, she was not ready. But with each stone she set down, she stood a little straighter. She did not forgive the actions that day, but she began to forgive herself for carrying the weight of them. She began to have compassion for the weary woman she saw in the pond. That is the beginning. Compassion is the courage to set down the stones, one by one, not because they don't matter, but because you matter. Your peace matters. Your freedom matters. This journey of understanding, from the cluttered plain to the open sky, from control to trust, from self-criticism to compassion, is not a linear one. It is a spiral. We revisit these lessons at deeper levels. And to navigate this spiral, we need a tool, a method to calm the waters of the mind so we can see clearly. This brings us to the heart of the practical path, the practice of meditation. Meditation. The word itself can evoke images of austere silence, of difficult mental gymnastics, of trying to achieve a state of blankness. Let us gently set those images aside. In the context of the Buddha's path, meditation is not about achieving a special state. It is about returning to a natural one. It is the practice of sitting down, in the midst of your bustling mental town, and remembering that you are the plane. It is not about stopping the construction of thoughts, it is about no longer confusing yourself with the builder. It is the act of familiarizing yourself with the sky-like nature of your awareness, so that when the storms of thought and emotion roll through, you remain, at your core, undisturbed. I often explain it like this. Imagine you have been living in a house with windows that are thickly coated in dust, grime, and old, foggy paint. The light from outside is distorted. Movements are blurry shadows. You come to believe the world is this dull, unclear place. Meditation is the simple, patient process of cleaning those windows. You are not creating the sunlight, the sun is always there. You are not creating the clear view of the trees and the sky, they exist. You are simply removing the layers that obscure them. Each moment of gently bringing your attention back to the breath is like a single, soft wipe of the cloth on the glass. It is not dramatic. But over time, the light begins to stream in unobstructed. You see things as they are, with clarity and brightness. The world hasn't changed, your capacity to perceive it has. The simplest and most profound door into this practice is through the anchor of the breath. Why the breath? Because it is always with you. It is the constant rhythm of life, the bridge between the voluntary and the involuntary, between the body and the mind. It is happening right now, without your conscious command, yet you can gently influence it. To begin, you don't need a special cushion, a particular pose, or absolute silence. You simply need a posture of dignity, a spine that is relaxed yet uplifted, as if a golden thread is gently pulling the crown of your head towards the sky. You can sit in a chair, on a floor cushion, or even lie down if sitting is painful. The intention is what matters. Now, close your eyes, or lower your gaze. Bring your awareness to the place where you most vividly feel the breath. It might be the cool sensation of air entering the nostrils. It might be the gentle rise and fall of the abdomen. It might be the slight expansion of the chest. Choose one anchor point. There is no right or wrong spot. Now, just feel it. Feel the sensation of the in-breath. Feel the brief, natural pause. Feel the sensation of the out-breath. That's it. You are not trying to control the breath, to make it deeper or slower. You are a curious observer, feeling the life force moving in and out of your body. You are watching the tide come in and go out on the shore of your awareness. Within moments, perhaps within seconds, you will notice that your awareness is no longer on the breath. It has wandered. It has drifted to a sound outside, to an ache in your knee, to a memory of a conversation, to a plan for later today. This is not a failure. This is the moment of practice. This is the dust on the window being revealed. The moment you notice, I am thinking, or I am planning, that moment of noticing is a moment of pure awareness. It is a wipe of the cloth. Do not judge yourself. Do not think, I'm terrible at this. That is just another thought, another layer of grime. Simply, with the gentleness of a mother turning a child's head back to a beautiful sight, gently return your attention to the sensation of the breath. In and out. The thought may try to pull you back. Acknowledge it. Thinking. And return. This is the entire practice, wandering and returning. Wandering and returning. Each return is a strengthening of your mindfulness muscle. It is a tiny, powerful act of saying to the chaotic mind, for this moment, I choose presence. A beautiful story that mirrors this process comes from a teaching about a restless king. He was a ruler who could never sit still. His mind flitted from worry about borders, to plans for palaces, to suspicions about his advisors. He was perpetually exhausted, irritable, and found no joy in his magnificent gardens or his loving family. A sage was brought to him. The king demanded, "Give me a potion for peace. A spell for a quiet mind." The sage said, "I have no potion. But I have a task. In your royal gardens, there is a certain oak tree. I want you to go there, sit beneath it, and count your breaths. Count 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, up to 10, and then start again. Do this for 1 hour each day." The king scoffed but was desperate. The first day, he sat. 1, 2. By 3, he was thinking about tax reform. He started over. 1, 2, 3. A bird chirped, and his mind was off on a memory of a hunt. He grew furious. This was impossible. He stormed back to the sage. "This is useless. My mind is like a monkey, swinging from branch to branch. The sage nodded. Good. You have met your mind. Now you know what you are working with. Go back. Do not fight the monkey. Just keep gently bringing it back to the counting. Don't scold it. Just guide it. Day after day, the king returned. Some days were frantic. Some days, he would get to 7 or 8 before losing count. But he persisted, not as a ruler commanding obedience, but as a patient observer. After many weeks, something shifted. He wasn't just counting breaths despite the thoughts. He began to notice the space between the thoughts. He noticed the feeling of the grass, the sound of the wind in the oak leaves, the warmth of the sun on his skin, things that had always been there but were drowned out by the internal noise. He wasn't just the king on the throne of his worries anymore, he was also the man sitting under the tree, part of the garden, part of the day. The peace didn't come from silencing the monkey mind. It came from no longer being at its mercy. He discovered he was the spacious garden in which the monkey played. This is the gift of meditation. It doesn't erase life's challenges. It changes your relationship to them. It gives you a home base, the feeling of the breath, the awareness itself, that you can return to when the winds of circumstance blow. As this practice deepens, it begins to illuminate the second mark of existence that the Buddha taught, dukkha, often translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness. Through the clear window of a calmer mind, you start to see the mechanics of your own discontent. You notice how a pleasant feeling arises, a sense of comfort, a happy memory, and the mind instantly grasps at it, more of this. Stay. You see how an unpleasant feeling arises, boredom, irritation, sadness, and the mind instantly pushes it away. I don't want this. Go. This grasping and pushing, this craving and aversion, is the engine of dukkha. Meditation allows you to see this engine idling in real time. You feel an itch and the immediate impulse to scratch. In that tiny gap between sensation and impulse, you have a choice. You can simply observe the itch as a constellation of tingling sensations. You can watch the desire to scratch arise as a thought. You might still scratch it, but now you do so with awareness, not as an automatic slave to discomfort. This microcosm applies to everything. The urge to check your phone when you feel a pang of loneliness. The urge to snap at someone when you feel disrespected. Meditation widens that gap, giving you the freedom to choose your response. It is the ultimate empowerment. This understanding naturally leads to a quality of equanimity, a balanced, steady heart. Equanimity is not indifference. It is not feeling nothing. It is feeling everything fully, joy, sorrow, excitement, fear. But without being swept away into the story of, I must have this forever, or I must escape this immediately. It is the deep understanding that all these states are visitors. They come, they stay for a while, they change, and they go. You are the host, offering space, but you do not need to redecorate your entire house for every guest. A profound practice for cultivating this is to meditate on the elements. Sit and feel the solidity of your body, the earth element. Feel the fluidity and flow in your blood, your saliva, the water element. Feel the warmth of your body, the fire element. Feel the movement of your breath, the air element. And then, feel the space that contains it all, the space element. Recognize that you are not just this temporary arrangement of elements. You are also the aware space in which this temporary arrangement is known. This realization brings a profound peace. The body will age, feelings will change, thoughts will pass. But the knowing space, the awareness itself, feels timeless. Anchoring in that is the source of unshakable equanimity. All of this inner work, seeing the plane, cleaning the window, understanding the visiting nature of thoughts and feelings, prepares us for the most integrated practice of all, bringing mindfulness off the cushion and into the dynamic flow of daily life. This is where the teachings cease to be a philosophy and become a lived reality. It is mindfulness in action. Mindfulness in action is the art of carrying the clear, spacious awareness you touch in meditation into the marketplace of your life. It is cleaning the window not just in a quiet room, but while walking down a busy street. It is remembering you are the plane while navigating the dense town of work, relationships, and chores. This is where the wisdom of Buddhism becomes a practical toolkit for serenity, not an escape from the world, but a profoundly engaged way of being within it. Let's begin with something simple, walking. You walk every day, often with a destination in mind, your body on autopilot while your mind is miles ahead or years behind. Mindful walking is bringing the meditation of the breath to the meditation of movement. The next time you walk, even from your car to a door, try this. Feel the sensation of your foot making contact with the ground. Notice the lift, the swing, the placement. Lifting, swinging, placing, you are not trying to walk in slow motion. You are simply bringing interested attention to an activity you usually ignore. You might notice the pressure in the soles of your feet, the shift of balance in your hips, the swing of your arms. When your mind darts to your to-do list, gently bring it back to lifting, swinging, placing. This simple act roots you in your body, in the present moment. It is an anchor in a moving world. I remember a senior monk who would do walking meditation in a small, enclosed courtyard for an hour each day. To an observer, it looked monotonous, just pacing back and forth. But he once told me, in that courtyard, I have walked across mountains and through valleys. I have felt the solidity of the earth and the impermanence of each step. The entire world is in the sensation of one foot meeting the ground. He was not escaping life, he was experiencing its fundamental reality with exquisite intimacy, right there in 20 paces of stone. This same principle applies to eating. We so often eat while distracted, watching a screen, reading, planning. Mindful eating is a revolution of the senses. Take a single raisin, or a small piece of fruit. Before eating it, look at it as if you have never seen such a thing. Notice its color, its texture, its folds and shines. Feel its weight, its temperature. Smell it. Then, place it gently in your mouth, without chewing immediately. Feel it on your tongue. Notice the impulse to bite. Then, slowly bite down once and notice the burst of flavor, the change in texture. Chew slowly, following the transformation from solid to liquid, from separate object to part of you. See if you can taste the sun, the rain, the earth, the labor of the grower in that one bite. In this simple act, you are practicing gratitude, you are practicing presence, you are practicing the deep understanding of interconnection. You are seeing the entire cosmos in a raisin. When you eat a full meal this way, you eat less, you enjoy more, and you nourish yourself on every level. But life is not all solitary walks and quiet meals. It is often conversation, interaction, and sometimes, conflict. Here, mindfulness becomes the practice of deep listening. Most of the time when others speak, we are not truly listening. We are rehearsing our response, judging their words, thinking about something else. Deep listening is giving someone the gift of your complete, undivided attention. It is listening not just to their words, but to the tone, the pauses, the emotion beneath. It is listening with your whole being, without an agenda to fix, advise, or agree. Your only job is to understand. This is a profound act of compassion. You are saying, in this moment, your experience matters. I am here to witness it. You will be amazed at how this transforms relationships. People feel seen, and from that feeling of being seen, defenses drop, and real connection becomes possible. Similarly, mindful speech is speaking from that same place of presence. It is pausing before you speak, feeling the impulse to say something arise, and asking yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? This pause, born of mindfulness, can prevent a world of hurt. It allows you to speak from your calm center, not from a reactive emotion. Of course, the true test of mindfulness in action is in difficult moments, the sudden stress, the sharp criticism, the unexpected loss. This is where your meditation practice shows its strength. Instead of being hijacked by the surge of anger or fear, you can, with practice, create a tiny pocket of space. You feel the heat rise in your face, the clutch in your stomach. Instead of immediately lashing out or collapsing, you can mentally take a step back. You can label it to yourself. Anger is here. Fear is here. By naming it, you separate slightly from the raw emotion. You are the sky noticing the storm cloud. From that space, you can choose a response. Maybe the response is to take 3 conscious breaths before saying anything. Maybe it is to say, I need a moment to process this. This is not suppression, it is wise response. It is using the clarity of the plane to navigate the chaotic town. A powerful story about this integration tells of a potter who was also a dedicated practitioner. His workshop was his meditation hall. He said his teacher was the clay. One day, he was working on a large, delicate vase, nearly finished. His apprentice, rushing, bumped the table. The vase wobbled, fell, and shattered. The apprentice froze in horror. The potter looked at the ruins, then closed his eyes for a long moment. The apprentice braced for an outburst. The potter opened his eyes, a calm acceptance in them. He knelt and began carefully picking up the larger shards. This, he said to the trembling apprentice, is the most important part of the work. The making is joy. The breaking is practice. Now we see what the clay teaches us about letting go. We see what my heart teaches me about attachment. And you, he looked at the apprentice, learn about carelessness and forgiveness. One vase is gone. But 3 lessons are here, glazing in the kiln of this moment. Help me clean up, and we will begin again. For the potter, there was no separation between his craft and his path. The broken vase was not an interruption to his spirituality, it was his spirituality, happening in clay form. This is the ultimate integration, seeing every moment, good or bad, as the material of your awakening. This seamless integration leads us to a beautiful concept in Buddhism. Sunyata, often translated as emptiness. This is a profoundly misunderstood term. It does not mean nothingness or nihilism. It means that nothing exists in isolation, with its own separate, permanent, independent identity. Everything is empty of a separate self. Everything is in relationship, interdependently arising. Your coffee cup is empty of a permanent cupness. It is a temporary coming together of clay, water, a potter's skill, fire, glaze, the miner who dug the clay, the sun that dried it, the person who delivered it to the store. The cup is a convenient label for a miraculous, flowing intersection of the entire universe. You are the same. You are empty of a solid, unchanging me. You are a process, a flowing river of memories, sensations, thoughts, relationships, the food you eat, the air you breathe. Seeing this interbeing is the end of loneliness and the beginning of boundless connection. When you drink your tea mindfully, you drink the rain, the cloud, the tea picker, the earth. You are not separate from the world, you are a knot in the infinite net of life. This understanding naturally dissolves judgment and nourishes universal compassion. If I see that you are made of the same non-self, interdependent elements as I am, that your suffering and joy arise from the same conditions, how can I hold hatred? How can I feel truly separate? Your happiness becomes a part of my happiness. This is not a sentimental thought, it is a logical conclusion of clear seeing. A classic teaching story illustrates this. A woman was chased by tigers to the edge of a cliff. She climbed over and clung to a wild vine, dangling precariously. Above, the tigers snarled. Below, in the ravine, another tiger looked up, hungry. As she hung there, two mice, one white and one black, began to gnaw at the vine she clung to. She saw a perfect, wild strawberry growing from the cliff face, within reach. Holding the vine with one hand, she plucked the strawberry with the other and ate it. How sweet it tastes, she thought. The story is often told as a parable about being present in the face of death. But on a deeper level, it is about interbeing. In that moment of utter precarity, she did not see the strawberry as separate from herself. The sweetness was not out there. It was a taste of the universe itself, experienced through her senses. The tigers, the mice, the vine, the cliff, and her own terrified heart were all part of one, inseparable, precarious, and beautiful moment of life. She tasted the whole cosmos in the strawberry. To live with this depth of interconnection is to live with gratitude as a default state. It is not gratitude for specific things, though that is a wonderful practice. It is gratitude as a way of perceiving. It is the understanding that this breath, this sight, this sound, is an unrepeatable gift of a universe conspiring to create this experience. Even the difficult moments are part of the tapestry. They are the dark threads that give depth and contrast to the whole picture. A practice I love is to end each day by mentally offering thanks for three things: one pleasant, one neutral, and one challenging. Thank you for the laugh with a friend, pleasant. Thank you for the reliable function of this lamp, neutral. Thank you for the difficult conversation that showed me where I am still attached to being right, challenging. This practice trains the mind to see the gift in all of experience. We have journeyed from the cluttered plain to the open sky, through the practices of meditation and into the flow of daily life, arriving at a sense of radical interconnection. This brings us to a final, essential pillar for a joyful and wise life, the cultivation of joy and appreciative joy, known as metta. Buddhism is sometimes seen as focusing solely on the end of suffering, but the path is also saturated with joy, a quiet, unshakable joy that is not dependent on external conditions. It is the joy of being awake, of being aware, of being part of this mysterious, breathtaking existence. Joy. It is a word that can feel light, even fleeting. In our world, it is often confused with excitement, pleasure, or the thrill of getting what we want. The joy found on the Buddhist path is of a different quality. It is quieter, deeper, and more resilient. It is not the sparkle on the surface of the water, but the steady, refreshing coolness of the water itself. It is the joy of being at peace with what is. It is the joy of freedom, freedom from the exhausting roller coaster of craving and aversion, freedom from the prison of our own fixed stories. This is metta, often translated as sympathetic or appreciative joy, the heartfelt happiness we feel at the happiness and success of others. But it begins with finding a joy within ourselves that is not in competition with anyone. This inner joy springs from simplicity. It is the joy of a single, conscious breath. The joy of feeling the sun on your skin after days of rain. The joy of a task done with full attention. When you are fully present, even washing dishes can become a joyful meditation, feeling the warmth of the water, the slickness of the soap, the shine of a clean plate. There is a story of two monks traveling. They came to a river where a young woman in fine silk stood, afraid to cross the current. The elder monk, without a word, picked her up, carried her across, set her down, and continued walking. Hours later, as they neared their monastery, the younger monk could no longer contain himself. "Brother, we are not supposed to touch women. How could you carry her?" The elder monk looked at his companion and replied, "I set her down by the river hours ago. You are still carrying her." The younger monk was carrying the weight of a judgment, a rule, a story. The elder monk had simply performed a kind act in the moment and then let it go, free to experience the joy of the walking, the landscape, the companionship that followed. His joy was in the unburdened present. Our minds are so often like the younger monk, carrying yesterday's events, tomorrow's worries, and a heavy rulebook of shoulds, leaving no space for the simple joy of now. To cultivate this, we practice finding joy in the seemingly insignificant. During a retreat I attended as a young student, we were given a joy assignment. For one day, we were to note every tiny moment that brought a flicker of simple pleasure. The taste of water. The pattern of shadows on the floor. The sound of a distant bell. The feeling of a smooth stone in the palm. By day's end, my list was pages long. I had discovered that joy was not a rare event to be pursued, but a constant background hum of existence that I had been ignoring in my search for bigger, better things. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is craving, the wanting mind. The root of joy is contentment, the enough mind. This doesn't mean you don't strive to improve your life or help others. It means you are not waiting for improvement to happen before you allow yourself to be happy. You find the joy in the striving itself, in the process, in the learning. You find the joy in what is already here, abundantly. From this inner wellspring of contentment grows the beautiful quality of mudita, joy in the joy of others. This can be a challenging practice. When a colleague gets the promotion you wanted, can you genuinely feel happy for them? Or does a knot of comparison and resentment form in your chest? Mudita is the deliberate untangling of that knot. It is the recognition that joy is not a finite resource. Their success does not diminish you. In fact, it proves that success, happiness, and good fortune are possible. By rejoicing in it, you align yourself with that positive energy. You practice it by consciously offering well wishes. When you hear of someone's good news, pause and silently say, "How wonderful. May your happiness continue. May your success grow." Feel those words. It may feel forced at first, but like any muscle, it strengthens with use. You are retraining a mind conditioned by scarcity and competition to one that operates on abundance and connection. A beautiful fable speaks to this. In a forest, there were two neighboring trees, a mighty oak and a slender birch. The oak was proud of its strength and size, offering shelter to many creatures. The birch was graceful but often felt insignificant next to the oak. One summer, a great storm arose. The oak, with its broad canopy and deep roots, stood firm but was struck by lightning, splitting its great trunk. The birch, flexible and yielding, bent wildly in the wind but was unharmed. After the storm, the oak was shattered, dying. The birch felt a surge of relief at its own survival, but then looked at its mighty neighbor, now broken, and felt a deep sorrow. Yet, as spring came, something amazing happened. Sunlight, once blocked by the oak's vast canopy, now streamed onto the forest floor around the birch. Wildflowers burst into bloom where there had only been shade. The birch itself grew stronger, straighter, bathed in the new light. It realized then that the oak's passing, while a loss, had also created the conditions for new life and for its own flourishing. It did not rejoice in the oak's death, but it learned to find a sincere, poignant joy in the new beauty that arose from the change. It understood that their fates were intertwined, not separate. This is mudita in its mature form, understanding the interconnected nature of all fortunes and misfortunes, and finding a place in the heart that can hold compassion for loss and joy for new growth simultaneously. This interconnected joy is the antithesis of envy, one of the most corrosive states of mind. Envy is a contraction. It says, "You have what I lack, and your having it makes my lack more painful." It is a painful focus on a perceived hole in oneself. The antidote is twofold: first, the self-compassion to soothe the feeling of lack within; second, the mudita to celebrate the abundance in another. When you do this, you magically discover that the hole begins to fill. By giving away joy, you become more joyful. All of these qualities, detachment, acceptance, compassion, mindfulness, interconnectedness, and joy, are not separate. They are facets of a single, luminous jewel, wisdom. In Buddhism, wisdom, prajna, is not intellectual knowledge. It is not the accumulation of facts or philosophies. It is a direct, intuitive seeing into the true nature of reality. It is the clear, first-hand understanding of impermanence, of the mechanics of suffering, and of the illusion of a separate self. This wisdom is what liberates. You can know all the Buddhist texts by heart, but if you haven't seen for yourself, in the laboratory of your own experience, how attachment causes pain, it remains mere information. How does this wisdom dawn? It dawns gradually, through consistent practice, like the sun slowly illuminating a landscape. But sometimes, it comes in flashes of insight, often when the mind is quiet and open. Meditation is the primary ground for this cultivation. As you watch thoughts arise and pass, you see impermanence in action. As you feel the tug of wanting or aversion, you see the seed of suffering. As you rest in awareness itself, you glimpse the selfless space that is your true home. This is why study and practice must go hand in hand. Study provides the map, practice is the journey where you verify the territory for yourself. There is a teaching tale about a scholar and a ferryman. The scholar, proud of his vast learning, hired a simple ferryman to take him across a wide river. During the crossing, the scholar asked, "Do you know philosophy?" The ferryman said no. "Then you have wasted a quarter of your life," said the scholar. "Do you know astronomy or astrology?" Again, the ferryman said no. "Then you have wasted half your life," scoffed the scholar. "Do you know the great scriptures and commentaries?" The ferryman shook his head. "Then you have wasted 3/4 of your life. How do you live with such ignorance?" Just then, a storm blew up. The river grew wild, and the small boat began to fill with water. The scholar panicked, clutching the sides. The ferryman calmly asked, "Great scholar, do you know how to swim?" The scholar, white with fear, cried, "No." The ferryman said, "Then you may waste your whole life. I suggest you hold on." The scholar's knowledge was abstract, useless in the face of the actual, turbulent river of life. The ferryman's wisdom was embodied, practical, born of direct experience with the water's nature. Buddhist wisdom is the ferryman's knowledge. It is knowing how to swim in the river of change, not just giving lectures about it. As this wisdom matures, it gives rise to a natural, effortless ethics. When you see that you are interconnected with all beings, harming another is seen as harming yourself. When you understand the law of cause and effect, karma, you see that actions born of greed, hatred, and delusion create suffering for yourself and others, while actions born of generosity, love, and wisdom create happiness. Ethical living stops being a list of rules, "Thou shalt not," and becomes the natural expression of a wise and compassionate heart. You don't avoid stealing because a scripture forbids it. You don't steal because you understand the distress it causes another being who, like you, wishes to be happy and safe. Your morality becomes intelligent and responsive, not robotic. This brings us to one of the most powerful applications of this entire path, working with fear and uncertainty. We live in a world of profound uncertainty. We fear illness, loss, failure, the unknown. Our default mode is to contract, to build walls, to try to control the uncontrollable. The wisdom of impermanence and interconnection offers a different way. It invites us to relax into uncertainty, to see it not as a threat, but as the very nature of existence. The future is inherently unknown. That is its promise as well as its peril. When we stop demanding a guaranteed outcome, we can meet the future with curiosity and openness. The practice is to return, again and again, to the certainty of the present moment. The certainty of this breath. The certainty of the ground beneath your feet. The certainty of awareness itself. Anchored here, fear about a future that does not yet exist loses its power to consume you. A final, Original story for this segment is called The Lighthouse Keeper's Son. A boy grew up in a lighthouse on a stormy, treacherous coast. His father's job was to keep the great lamp lit, a beacon for ships. The boy was terrified of the storms. He would huddle inside, hearing the waves crash against the rocks, imagining ships breaking apart in the dark. He begged his father to let them move inland. One night, in a hurricane of unusual fury, the boy was paralyzed with fear. His father said, "Come with me." He took the boy up to the lamp room, high in the tower. The wind screamed, the tower shuddered, but here at the heart of the storm, the great lamp burned, steady and calm. His father put the boy's hand on the glass. It was warm. "You have been listening to the storm," his father said, his voice quiet but clear over the wind. "But you have forgotten the lighthouse. The storm is real. The danger is real. But we are not the storm. We are the light. Our job is not to stop the storm. Our job is to remain steady, to keep the light burning, so that those in the storm have a point of reference, a direction home." In that moment, the boy's fear transformed. He wasn't a victim of the storm anymore, he was part of the light opposing it. His purpose was clarity, not control. Our practice is to become the lighthouse keeper. The storms of life, of change, of loss, of fear, will always come. We cannot stop them. But we can learn to tend the inner light of awareness, of compassion, of wisdom. We can become a steady beacon, not just for ourselves, but for all those navigating their own turbulent seas. And in that tending, we find a profound, unshakable peace. The storm rages, but in the lamp room of your own heart, there is warmth and a clear, steady flame. This flame illuminates the final, and perhaps most tender, aspect of our journey. The embrace of our own humanity, with all its flaws and perfect potential. We have journeyed far across the inner landscape, from the cluttered plain of our thoughts to the open sky of awareness. We've practiced cleaning the window of perception through meditation and learned to walk, eat, and listen with presence. We've explored the freedom of letting go, the courage of acceptance, and the boundless warmth of compassion that flows from understanding our interconnectedness. We've discovered that joy is not a distant reward but the natural flavor of a contented, mindful heart. All of this culminates not in becoming someone else, but in the gentle, complete embrace of who you already are. This embrace is the essence of the path, coming home. You are not perfecting a flawed self, you are recognizing the inherent wholeness that was never broken. The Buddha's teachings are not about attaining a distant enlightenment, but about awakening to the enlightenment that is already here, beneath the layers of forgetting. Like the sun behind clouds, your innate peace, wisdom, and compassion are constant. The practice is simply the patient allowing of the clouds to pass. Let this understanding be a relief. You do not need to become perfectly detached, perpetually calm, or endlessly joyful. You are human. There will be days when the mind is a bustling town, days when the window seems fogged beyond cleaning, days when compassion feels like a distant theory. This is not failure. This is the path itself. The practice is in the gentle return. Each time you notice you are lost in thought and come back to your breath, you are coming home. Each time you feel resentment and choose to soften your heart, you are coming home. Each time you meet fear with a moment of mindful pause, you are coming home. Therefore, the ultimate teaching is one of profound kindness towards your own journey. Hold your practice lightly. Let it be a companion, not a taskmaster. Sometimes your practice will be formal meditation. Sometimes it will be fully tasting your morning coffee. Sometimes it will be taking a deep breath before speaking in anger. Sometimes it will be simply noticing the weight of weariness in your body and offering it rest. All of it is valid. All of it is the path unfolding in the unique expression of your life. As you live this way, a quiet confidence grows. You begin to trust life not because it is always pleasant, but because you trust in your own capacity to meet it. You trust the navigator within. You realize that what is meant for you is not a specific person, job, or possession arriving on a schedule. What is meant for you is this present moment of experience, with all its textures. And you have the tools to be with it fully, to learn from it, and to let it go when its time is done. Life becomes a wise teacher, and you a willing, open student. The universe is in constant, benevolent conversation with you, offering lessons in the form of everyday events. A delay becomes a lesson in patience. A loss becomes a lesson in the beauty of what was. A conflict becomes a lesson in boundaries and understanding. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this here to show me?" This shift in questioning transforms your entire existence. You move from being a victim of circumstance to a participant in a meaningful dialogue with life. You see that every experience, without exception, is fuel for your awakening. The bitter and the sweet alike are ingredients in the meal. You learn to digest it all with the stomach of equanimity. So, as we conclude this long, deep exploration together, I invite you to carry one simple thing forward, the question of kindness. In any moment of confusion, of reactivity, of suffering, gently ask yourself, what would kindness do here? Not passivity. Not approval. But kindness. Kindness to yourself, to the other, to the situation. Kindness might be setting a firm boundary. Kindness might be walking away to calm down. Kindness might be speaking a difficult truth with compassion. Kindness might be simply allowing yourself to feel sad without judgment. Let that question be your guiding star. It contains the wisdom of detachment. Kindness doesn't cling, the courage of acceptance. Kindness meets what is, and the warmth of compassion. Kindness cares. You are enough. You have always been enough. This journey has not been about fixing you, but about remembering your true nature, vast as the sky, gentle as a breath, interconnected with all that is. You are the plane. You are the lighthouse. You are the warm, steady light in the lamp room. Thank you for allowing this time and space for deep listening and inner exploration here at Monk's Moon Temple. If these reflections have been a companion to you, if you wish to continue this conversation of the heart, consider subscribing. It is a way of saying yes to your own journey of peace, and it allows us to walk further together. In the comments, we would love to hear what resonates with you most. A story, an image, a moment of insight. Your sharing adds to our collective wisdom. But for now, let this be enough. Let the words fade. Rest in the silence that holds them. Feel the presence that reads these words. That is you. That is home. Nothing more is needed. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you live with a heart at ease. Good night.